My name's Cindy.
Hi, Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
And thanks, podium. Thanks, yeah. No, it was the fact that you just were always there, suiting up, showing up, that it seemed like you've been, around for forever in this amazing program. It'd be hard for me not to bleed over the programs, but the benefits from anything 12-step is, fabulous. But this was sort of the icing on the cake that was doing fine without the icing, but now it's just that so much more. And then I was blessed to be able to come to for, I think it was 2 winters, I came with my brother Hank, my older brother, my abusive, obnoxious, love him anyway older brother, who's in Madrid, so I can get away with saying whatever I want. And I just came back, I went and saw him at Christmas, and he's what a character. We could talk 20 or 30 minutes on Hank, right? But we won't. We'll talk about, I grabbed the laundry list because when I first came in here, 2014, 2015, anyway, it was at the Alano Club, and yeah, and I think Hank was with me the first night. And anyway, I'd heard about ACA, and I had thought it was a really good idea, but I didn't act on it. But I was in 12-step, so the 12 steps are not, weren't new to me, and I've benefited so much from being sober in AA, and there's so many things I want to share, but trying to get them in some sort of an order, it's going to be a little jumpy, because it's just the way the brain still works. But when you guys read this laundry list, it was like, oh my God, it was just that earth-shaking bit of information that was like rocked you on your, and so when I heard it read tonight, I thought to myself, well, you should go over that and see how much has improved in the last few years from just knowing this stuff and doing some of the workbook with my brother, and I will say that things got a little bit busy. In 2015, sold the house in Santa Barbara and moved to Ojai, and that changed my meeting program and whatnot. So ACA I wouldn't say fell by the wayside. The book is still with me. My workbook is still with me. My brother and I talk about it all the time when we're together. But regularly going to meetings, I have not been doing. So put that confession right out there up front. But and George and I communicate, and I'm about, next week I celebrate 36 years of sobriety, and when she said you want to come and talk, I thought, good idea, really good idea. So Hank was the oldest. Put some of this in chronological order. Hank was the oldest, then my sister Jennifer, then me, and then my younger brothers, Nick and Chris. And from what I can tell, even though my mother doesn't believe it, my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was a raging Al-Anon. And we grew up in that household. Dad went to Camarillo State Hospital and he found AA. And then he went back east and that was when I was 8. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and he was supposed to live 6 months, and he lived 4.5 years. So those, those really important, those beginning years, when I was hiding under the bed, begging my mom to shut up so that the fight wouldn't continue, to losing my dad, and then and then, trying to support my mom and stay out of the way of when she would start to rage and start smacking us around, because she was trying to control the world. And I understand that now, but I didn't at the time. I thought she was a terrible parent and she should be horsewhipped. But when I got sober in AA, I promptly went and said, "You have to get sober too, Mom." And she said, "I will after your mother, my mother, her mother, my grandmother dies." I said, "I'm afraid you'll be dead first at the rate you're going." And she looked at me and she said, "You might have a point there." Because she was getting plowed every night because she was taking care of her mother, who was going into Alzheimer's. It was pretty bad. So in the month of December, in my first year of sobriety, I took my brother to his first meeting and my mother. And my mother, I took her to her. We walked from her house to the meeting on Glendasary, and it was a really windy night. And I looked at her and I said, "Have you been drinking?" And she said, "You thought I was going to go to my first AA meeting sober?" Okay, you have a point, but I didn't know what the rules were. And I'm like, you can't go to an AA meeting if you've had something to drink. So, needless to say, she was hysterically funny, and she dated a monk in AA. I mean, there's stories I could tell you that would. Charlie Rock was a Vedantin monk. I'm like, so they can have relationships? No. But apparently, anyway, my mom was quite a character in Santa Barbara AA. And then my brother, my older brother, was about to move into a railroad car, and he thought that was a really good idea. He was down at the what I think it was called the Ice House, but it was the original lemon packing house. He was hitting a bad bottom, and mine looked good. I still had the car, and the kid and the husband. So, but I found AA and I grabbed a hold tight, and because I knew there was something so wrong with all of us, but and I thought AA was going to fix all of us, and in some ways it totally has. But this program, and then to be able to do those first couple of years with Hank was great, because we'd sit in meetings and he'd share about his childhood, and I'd go, "I didn't know that," and then I'd share about my childhood, and he'd go, "I didn't know that." We grew up in the same house, and we know that it's a completely different experience for each child, because they go at life differently. And they see things differently. And of course, he was 4 years older than me too. So, and he knew my mom was crazy too. We did have that in common. We knew she was crazy, but this program helped us make better sense of it in understanding the traumatic stuff that she was going through in trying to raise 5 kids by herself with a sick husband, and parents who were controlling and financially supportive and difficult with their own stuff. So, life, the human experience of being raised here in Santa Barbara with alcoholic parents. Anyway, I dropped out of high school with my career of drinking started in high school, and so I couldn't even finish. I was a mess. But I went on and did community college, had 3 kids, and had I had a 30-year marriage and raised the children, and I've had an amazing life, which I attribute all to 12-step work. People say, "How'd your kids turn out so good?" Knowing that I'm kind of screwed up. I came from a kind of screwed up family, and I would say AA, 12-step. I recommend it for anybody trying to raise kids or function in any real capacity. Mostly because all this stuff points us to a power greater than ourselves, and prayer and meditation, and the depth at which we can be healed with that. But it's not just that, because I know people who have spent their life praying and meditating, and they're like, why am I so screwed up? Well, you have to have community, you have to have the tribe, you have to have the circle, you have to have, all this thing that we have and how it's laid out. I read bits and pieces of the Red Book, and listening to them talk about the early days of Alateen, and then having nothing to go to after Alateen was over, and it's fascinating that Tony and those people put that book together, because I was really impressed with the book and the workbook, and Hank and I did some of the workbook together, and that has solidified our relationship to be a much more loving and understanding relationship. And it's really good he lives in Madrid. So, because, it's real life. Challenging. I love him to death, but he'll drive you nuts at the same time. And that's what somebody said to me. We were talking about something, and I said, I love everybody's soul. This is their personalities. This is having a little bit of trouble with. And so that's really what it comes down to. It's like the soul of people. I stopped at a garage sale today in Ojai and started chatting with the woman. She's very chatty. And she said she had a horribly damaging childhood. And she anyway, it was just the fact that she was willing to share that with me was a compliment to me, that I was open and could listen. And when we've experienced these rooms and we get this material under our belt and we have an understanding, and somebody can... But she wasn't like sharing with me from like a victim place. She was sharing with, I've worked really hard to rise above that damage as a kid and do the best I could with raising my kids. But she also said that the community in Ojai scooped her and those kids up, and they all helped each other raise each other's kids. And so community, which I find in AA and out of AA, because it's not, and in ACA, and but community, knowing the people that you live near, that you go to the same store, that just that, but also this. If you can't find it in your neighborhood for whatever reason, because we all live in those boxes. That's a whole other subject. Don't get me started on that. I'm into roundhouses and shared communal living, but I'm not there yet. But I think it's a better idea than the way we isolate and separate ourselves. But anyway, the place where we come for 12-step healing is so important. It's not just important. I mean, important sounds like a pathetic word. It's mandatory. It's some people say that the 12-step programs are changing the consciousness on the planet, and if I got to participate in just a little bit of that, I'm super grateful and thrilled. But anyway, this woman today at the garage sale was so grateful for her life, and I didn't think about it, but I was like, have you been to ACA? Because you seem like you have gotten, what we get from these rooms. And I think I'm going to go back and talk to her tomorrow. Because she was just like us, just a little bit fragile, a little bit raw, and incredibly touched by this thing that we get to participate in. We get to participate in. We get to, because of people like you, George, that put these things together, that read, and we set up the chairs, and and it's so simple, and nobody's in charge. and the money just pays for what it is we're doing here, and then a little goes to central office of whatever this is, and it's kind of fascinating. I've gotten to a couple weeks ago. I got to go to a friend's house in Ojai. There was about 15 of us, and we listened to a Bill Wilson tape, a recording of him talking to the National Council on Alcoholism in '55, I think, and talking about the alcoholic and how it childish, grandiose, and childlike, grandiose, and what's the third one? I always forget. Anyway, the personality traits, and how, and just how special this thing is. So it's my life, and I have other people besides the little lady at the garage sale that are in my life, and they have people in their lives that are ravaging their lives if they let them with the disease. I have a friend whose daughter is hooked up with a heroin addict, and it's constant wreckage all the time, putting out the fires. And then recently I have a really good friend of mine, and she has a grandson, and he's 3, and she does a lot of caretaking because his parents are not well. And they came over to her house the other night and were basically beating each other up. I mean, basically they were doing what my parents were doing in front of us kids, and I just got so touched because that little 3-year-old was me when I was 3, and it's like, whoa, how do you stop that? And she called me, she texted me, and she said, please help me. What do I need to do? And I said, I'll ask around, I'll get back to you. Now, it's obvious what you need to do, but it's the hardest thing in the world to do it, to call Child Protective Services on your son and the baby's mom. And so I tried to get myself out of it, which I know to do, right? So I contacted someone else, and I said, this is a situation, what? And they went, Child Protective Services. And I went, of course, but I just had to have somebody else tell me so that I could tell her. And I told her, and she said, yes, of course, that's absolutely what I need to be doing. And I said, and I know that's the hardest call you're going to make. And it's just, my heart breaks for people, and yet I think it's what we're doing here. It's that we get to not only live through this stuff, and people say survive, but I think with 12-step you get to thrive, and you get to work together and create what I call the community, the tribe, to nurture each other through this, through the hard times. And I just, when I get mad, I try to remember to get mad at the disease, and not the people involved, because they can't help it. And I finally get that, and that's something that's taken a long time, because when I first was hanging out in these rooms, I was like, whoa, you just don't do that, right? And this doesn't work that way. I've learned a lot, and a lot of what I've learned is painful. Like, this is the reality, and ouch, man, it hurts. I mean, it even hurts as an outsider. But it also let me see into my own childhood and how difficult, it must have been, and surviving it, and how difficult it was for my parents to be who they were and doing what they were doing. Anyway, and I truly believe consciousness is the solution, because if when I'm conscious and I'm connected, I get to have that connection, and when I'm not, I don't. And that it's really that simple. But it's not simple. It's not simple to do that all the time. It's not simple to manifest that and to be. It's not easy to be a human being. It's really, I was thinking, there's alcoholism and there's drug addiction and there's this. It's like, no, there's just humanism. Just being a human being is super challenging. And what I think we have here and what we find in these rooms is such a gift and it's such a blessing. And I'm so grateful to be a part of something that I personally believe is changing the world as we know it. Very, very slowly and very quietly and very beautifully and very grassrootedly. I love to make up words. And we became addicted to excitement. I can still be guilty of that. And we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves. I still have that, but the degree is so much less. We confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and rescue. Okay, that's still very much a tendency of mine, but at least I see it now, thanks to you guys. We have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. And I know that there's still a certain amount of that, but so much has healed. So much. It's so much better. We judge ourselves harshly. Well, I tended to more like judge you harshly, not me. That I don't know where that fits in there, but I always said I was more homicidal than suicidal. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but I admit that. I raise my hand on that one. If anybody's going to go, it's going to be you, not me. So probably learned that from my parents, I think. Which could be a good thing. I'd be still here and you'd be gone, so I don't know. And then we are dependent personalities. Well, I've become incredibly independent. And so I think the pendulum has swung a little too far the other way. So I'm like trying to learn to ask for help and stay, because asking for help, when I ask for help, then that is connection. And then I have a buddy that I met up in Ohio, and we feel like we've known each other our whole lives. And the similarities in our lives are ridiculously uncanny. And so we joke a lot and we call each other out on our stuff, and we have a really, really good relationship, friendship, sponsorship, all kinds of things. It covers the whole gamut. So that's been a wonderful experience in my life. And then alcoholism is a family disease, and we became para-alcoholics. This is what I have seen too in a lot of families where, my mom was just, people go, my mom and dad, they're really crazy, but they weren't drinking. Well, I said, well, how about the grandparents? Any drinking in the grandparents? And they go, oh yeah, Grandma and Grandpa were complete lush buckets. I'm like, okay, well, that's probably why Mom and Dad aren't doing very well, So to have a place for that to heal is amazing. So that was very interesting for me to learn about para-alcoholism in this. Took on the characteristics of that disease, even though we did not pick up the drink. Para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors. Yeah. I do much better at responding to situations, but I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but aren't things ramped up a little bit right now? It's like, oh my God, not one more thing could possibly go wrong or happen, and have to survive through it. Being able to go through these things and be loving and kind and prayerful for people who have been directly affected by them is amazing. Oh, and one more thing I want to make sure I tell you guys about. We have a super full blue blood moon this coming Wednesday. So if you're feeling a little bumpy, hold on to your seat. Because this is, I know this affects, well, okay, it may not affect you, but it seriously affects me. And to know that ahead of time, so that you can buckle up, maybe 2 or 3 seatbelts, so that you can get through this coming week, I suggest that we do that, because it's, oh my gosh, right? The blood moon part of it is the eclipse. It's going to happen Wednesday night, my birthday night, my AA birthday night, it's actually the next day, between 2 and 5 a.m. It'll be this blood-colored. Can't they just say orange? There's no oranges in Ojai. Why do they have to use blood? And then blue moon is the second full moon, and the second full, I know, because full moon and vampires and all that stuff, all those, yeah. Anyway, and if you attend 12-step program, regularly, you see how weird we get during the full moon cycle. So, anyway, buckle up your seatbelts for the next week, because it's going to be a little bit crazy. But now, I get these things that put a big spiritual bent on that. So what it's actually doing is it's going to cleanse all the negativity and the icky stuff out of your system. Well, of course, it has to come up and you get to look at it first. But, does it sound like a program or what? And then it's going to be purged from you, and then you'll get to move into 2018 much cleaner and clearer, and the moon will go back to being white. So that's the good news. So it's going to be bumpy because all this stuff's going to come up, but you get to say goodbye to all of it. So that's my wishful Pollyanna fairy tale stuff. But I'm telling that story, and my kids look at me and they go, "Mom, we don't really believe the stuff you're talking about." I said, "It's okay. It makes me feel good, and so I believe it, and we want Mom to feel good. So that's, because my kids are like, God, that's stupid, Mom." I said, "Yeah, well, wait till you're my age, and then we'll talk about how stupid it is. Of course, I may be gone by then, but that's okay. Of course." Poor kids, I might still be around, too. Oh my God, she's 120. Can't we get rid of her? Oh, maybe they'll have a way of doing that then. Okay. Easy. Maybe you could just get into your mushroom bag before you're gone. I don't know. Anyway, now I'm being silly, but anyway, it's hard to not be heavy, but at the same time, life is fun. It's humorous. It's ridiculous, especially if we take it seriously. Anyway, so and I've spent a lot of time in this particular room studying the Course in Miracles. There's a group that meets here on Thursday nights that studies the Course. So I'm really glad you all came. I hope I entertained you a little bit, and I hope it helped you get to know another person on the path. Because we're all on this path together, and we're all going to the same place. We have different bus tickets out of here, but we're all going to the same place, in my opinion. And so, I think that's enough out of me. Thanks.